Welcome back to Incite Club. Today we are talking about the externalization of self. Join us. The first rule of Incite Club is you don't talk about Incite Club. You do Incite Club. The second rule of Incite Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Incite Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Incite Club.
And you ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
So where is your mind, Megan?
I'm looking at that picture and thinking maybe I should cut my hair short again. Hey, can we start with something we were just talking about? Because you were just telling me about your gorgeous new tattoos.
Yes.
And I think maybe let's start with externalization of self in positive ways. And then we can kind of explore from there. Because this is a topic with a lot of different facets and something we've been wanting to chat with for a while. But it strikes me that like having art permanently on your body is a kind of externalization of self.
Are you putting something on a t-shirt as well?
Yes, exactly. Are you willing to share a little bit about for you the significance of having tattoos?
That's a great topic. Actually, it's been a while since I don't talk about it, even though some people actually ask me, don't you regret doing, and what if you regret doing something and so on? And my answer is always like for me, no, because all of them have a meaning for me.
Yeah.
And even if something passes or something like that, there's still meaning in the thing or the time that I decided to do that tattoo. Otherwise I wouldn't go through the like time and also pain and the care that you need to get the tattoos. It's not just like there's hours that you go through the process, but also you have to take care of it for 15 days and so on. So it is a long process to do if you're not sure of something.
Yeah.
Like these last ones, it was the longest that I took making them. It was 5 hours.
Wow.
It's a long acupuncture session.
That's a neat way to think of it.
to not be sure about it. So for me, that externalization is like I'm marking moments in my life and
Yeah.
things that are important for me. It's like I'm writing my story in myself, things that I want to carry with me and that I don't want to forget.
Amazing. And we all, well, I can't say we all, a lot of people do this with journaling. I know somebody who for her word of the year every year puts it on a mantra bracelet and she has all of the collection, right? So there's a spectrum of ways where we externalize key moments, milestones, parts of our story that we really want to remember. I have these miniature book earrings that my sister made me, and I write in them milestones and moments condensed and crystallized and distilled into affirmations, right? Like I am statements, but based on new levels of growth that I've come into. You have distillations that are in image form. You also have distillations that are in song form, right?
Yes.
Your songs are these externalizations and these expressions. So I thought this is a cool way to start because I was initially thinking of when we had the conversation about let's talk about externalization of self. I was on this feeling of like people are not taking them, they're outsourcing themselves and all this kind of negative stuff. But just grounding in the context that having this human experience is not something any of us want to do alone or have completely inside. It feels really lonely for nobody to know our story.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah. So, and then maybe that helps to shed a light or to make a bridge to what are the ways where we kind of externalize self without the internal counterpart. Because you're saying like having a
Mm.
tattoo is this commitment of time and energy. And so you're coming at it from this place of like, I've really internalized this lesson, this moment first, and now I want to have this marker of it. But I think where we initially came into this topic was what happens when we only externalize or kind of outsource self and we're missing that that inner component.
I'm gonna go back to the t-shirts with that, but I just want to mention one thing because before we go into that, I love that you mentioned that I had to internalize some of the lessons before putting it in my skin, uh, because I even had some tattoos that I felt like I really want to do this, but I don't feel I'm ready for that tattoo yet.
Mm.
And that's the case with one that I have in here, which is a piece of a song from Frank Sinatra. And I still feel like I'm still living this. But when I've done this, I felt like, yeah, I actually can say that I've done this. It's the My Way song. And through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all and I stood tall and did it my way. That
Yeah.
part. Uh, and for me, this was like when I go through it all from my doubts and I feel like I actually found my way, I'm doing this one. And I had this in my mind for a long time before I actually got the tattoo. So it was like I'm building myself towards that.
I've had that feeling around pieces of writing
Yeah.
where the idea is there and maybe I could, get some of it out and share it as it is, but I really want to have that clarity that I've moved through the portal. And it's not about now I'm done and I'll never need to learn this lesson again. It's
Exactly.
not a hesitation and it's not a waiting to be perfect or anything like that. It's a very specific, can I stand in this
Yeah.
question with myself? Like this moment of honesty. Am I really in this energy or am I still hovering around it? And I want to write it and
Yeah.
share it from being in that.
Am I in integrity with this? Am I
Yeah.
actually living this and like moving towards that? And the thing that I mentioned with a t-shirt, this is a silly thing, but I think everyone can relate. You know, those times in teenage years where you want to wear that band t-shirt, but sometimes you're not really into all of their songs and you might feel like I'm such an imposter to be using this shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like that's the cool thing. Yeah, that I feel it's one thing that I can relate with externalization when you're trying to either fit a group or be someone that you think you are, or that you want to be, but it's not like a um coming from inside necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with bands and am I enough of a fan, to me takes it to the realm of our interactions with others and the way we create our identity based on social groups.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have that problem about wearing the shirt without the fear of other people going, oh, well, on such and such album, do you like this? And you're like, I haven't heard that album. you know?
And even if it is like, oh, I like a few songs, I don't know all of them, do I really need to know all the songs to be able to wear that shirt if I like that?
Yeah,
Right?
I think only in the context where we're waiting for other people to test
Yeah.
us, where we're waiting for other people to challenge us,
Yeah.
and kind of all of the like choosing an identity in our social circle, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, so you're a grunge person. Oh, you're a goth. Or you're this. You like, oh no, I just
Yeah.
just felt like liking this band today. So this may be where our harmful, non-integrated externalizations of self come in, and even self that only exists as um like the external representation, and there's nothing inside, like the shell that's made up of the band posters and the band t-shirts and all of the things, and like that becomes the personality. And as we are in this space, I mean, how long has it been? I think I got on Facebook in 2008. Do you remember when you first got on social media?
2008 on
Yeah.
Facebook. Yeah.
But how old were you then?
I was 18 years old.
Oh my God. Oh,
But
okay.
before that, here in Brazil, we had Orkut. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I didn't know.
It was another social media,
Okay.
a little bit different than Facebook. It was more like it had this more like forum based threads where people would talk about. There were things about bands. There were things about memes. There were things about um, not wanting to work on Mondays or anything. All these things that were like groups that meant like an affirmation about yourself, and some of them were interesting, like the ones about bands and so on, where people would meet when there was a concert coming, for example, and like gather like who's going and so on, and go to meet each other and so on. And there were some that were just like as if you had like a badge that you don't wake up early on Mondays or something like that. And you had that page where people could leave a testimonial about how much your friendship mattered and so on.
Oh, interesting.
Basically
Like a
that.
yearbook page.
Yeah. So I've been on social media before Facebook.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And of course there was in the US there was MySpace.
yeah.
Um which I was never on, but which I remember as starting a lot of like anger and fights in this friend group that I was in. And these subtle things that people did or didn't do, and it's like the repercussions came back into real life. It's like, why did you didn't friend me
Oh.
back, whatever it was. Yeah. But I bring that up, and I don't want to, I definitely don't want to do the thing where people just kind of blame all the ills of the world on social media. But like, it's something to acknowledge, right? When we talk
Yeah.
about externalization of self and moving into like, when we're in school, there's this performative aspect of like, what am I wearing and what group does that make me part of, and what band am I saying I like, and all of that. And we really, what we're in the process of doing with technologies is magnifying all of these social things. And I just finished an interesting book called The Comfort Crisis, and the author was talking about different cultures that have rites of passage that involved extreme discomfort. Like you're going to go out into the desert for a few days and have a vision quest. And if you find some food and water, good for you. And if, it's like, you're going to go hunt a lion. And the cultures in which young people have those uncomfortable and kind of seminal experiences tend to not have teen angst. They tend to not have like teenagers who are going around looking for their identity and trying to puzzle together from external puzzle pieces a sense of self, because there is an internal sense of self that comes from, I fucking killed the lion.
Yeah.
So this has been going on for a long, long time, and just our technology is amplifying it. But
That
it's amplifying it a lot.
yeah, that's a great example, because this is something that I feel like the challenges that we go through, even though we might not like them and not enjoy them in the moment, they not only turn into great stories, but also turn into um, teach us who we are, and about our character as well, how we deal in situations that things are not always perfect, things are not always the way we expect things to be. And in those moments, it's where you actually know your true colors. I feel like because makes things so easy these days, and maybe this is why these rites of passage are so important. Because things are so easy, we don't really know ourselves to the depths of how would I really react in certain situations,
Yeah.
right?
There's a great moment from the TV show Modern Family where the daughter is writing college application essays, and of course they're asking questions like, "What's your big accomplishment?" or "Who are you know these kind of deep questions," and she yells at her parents, is like, "I've never gone through any strife or conflict, and it's your fault. You made life too easy for me." At which point the mom drives her out to the middle of nowhere and leaves her without her cell phone. um, which is
Perfect.
delightful. But it's such a relatable, beautiful encapsulation of modern culture. Like the child is like, I don't know who I am or what my strengths are because you made life so easy for me. Meanwhile, the parent who, if this parent is like they're in their 40s, let's say right now, it would have been their grandparents who lived through world wars, depressions, economic depressions, like influenza, like all of this stuff that was really, really terrible. And of course, they wanted to make a better life for their kids. And now we're like, my life is too good.
You're making it too easy. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so no wonder we are looking to a sense of self from external uh, points of view. And then this is coupled with life being very easy in the sense of um, we don't have to work as hard for our food. We don't have to work at all for our shelter. We have these creature comforts. Of course, we're seeing skyrocketing numbers of depression, of disconnection. So it's not like life is easy as a full human being, but life is very comfortable when it comes to being warm enough and having food and shelter for the vast majority of humans on Earth.
And yet, I want to bring something that you said earlier in here as well. We're talking about how important those difficult situations and life threatening rites of passage and so on uh, serve a purpose to help us know ourselves. But there's another thing that you brought up here when we talked about music, for example, your writing, every form of art. There's this other way of getting to know ourselves as well that
Yes.
is about what we create. And I feel like part of why people are so disconnected and trying to piece together uh, who they are from other things and feeling like, oh, I'm depressed because life is too easy or whatever it is, it's because most people neither have the difficulty to actually get to know themselves in that way until something really bad happens, which will happen in everyone's lives in some moment, but usually it's a bit too late
Mm.
for them to, and then people are left with what I done in my life. And I finally have the answers, but it's too late.
Or
Never
or
is too late.
or it may simply be like trauma and then trying to recover from that. Like
Yeah,
an adverse situation does not guarantee wisdom.
true.
You can go through a shitstorm and come out the other side exactly the same, but more
Feeling
sad.
like a victim. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is, even if they go through something like this, most people don't learn to create. And
Mm.
that's something that I feel like, yes, we do this to ourselves as well, as falling for the societal story that this is not productive or creativity is not um, something that will bring money uh, to you, that it's not like viable or realistic or whatever it is. But also, uh, there's a problem of with not valuing this, like society not valuing this and not encouraging this. Most kids grow with like, oh no, I have nothing of good to create.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's so much wisdom in. Okay, so I want to be really clear. I'm not advocating for let's live in the snow and not have enough food to eat because that will somehow make us. Because that again could just be, well, I'm just suffering and I'm not bringing any true growth to this. It's right. It's not honing me. It's just wearing me down. But if we could intentionally curate um, like rites of passage around creativity, that seems like it would be so beneficial and honing people, sharpening them with the
Mm.
blade of self knowledge and introspection that comes from the challenge of doing a project we're really passionate about. It doesn't have to be actually life threatening. We live in
Yeah.
such a subtle time. We have the capacity, let me rephrase that. We don't live in a subtle time. There's very little subtlety,
Mm.
but we have the capacity, it's within our reach to create transformation with very subtle tools. So we
Mm.
don't have to put the person through the famine. We don't have to have them go out and hunt the lion.
Mm.
um, our nervous systems will respond with like full engagement to lower risk things when they like hit us internally and we really care about them. And I think also when they're curated by somebody who knows what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
When we have people who can create spaces, like being in a Hotlight Sisterhood, working with you on creating songs, and you have this ability to create a container where it feels like so much is at stake for me. Like, I really want this. I really want to create this. I really am having this breakthrough, even just going on I don't know what would be a good thing to call it, like journeys with you, like
Yeah.
journeys you've curated and created with me over freaking Zoom. It's like we're not even in the same physical space together and you're able to take me. I
Yeah.
have grown and transformed and gotten to know myself. Zero physical risk, zero risk of embarrassment. It was just us. Like from the point of view of our modern lives, like, can we get more of this where we use our emotions, our intelligence, and our connection and tools of creativity to have experiences that push us deeper into knowing ourselves and
Yeah.
into finding that strength? And I'm just sitting in my office perfectly safe the whole damn time.
Thank you for bringing it up. It's like our mind doesn't know the difference
Yeah.
between what we are imagining and what's real anyway. So y- you don't have to really be in front of the lion to face the lion.
Mm. Let's put that on a t-shirt.
Yes.
I love it. I love it so much. And I think it's really important here to point out the difference between being in those spaces creating versus consuming.
Yeah.
There's a huge surge right now of people who are like, I'm microdosing for creativity and I'm, having ayahuasca journeys. And the question I want to know is, are you creating from that? Or
Mm.
are you only consuming? Because, I mean, ayahuasca for some people, I get the sense is like television or Netflix is for me,
Mm.
right? Where it's like, I keep going, I keep attending that thing to be there for it. I'm like, what are you doing with it afterwards? How are you? And it comes back to integration. How are you integrating?
Integration, and also how present are you with your conscious mind and heart and everything to actually be with that and make meaning of that, because that's another thing we were talking about externalization, and I had an interesting experience. I mentioned to you earlier a bit of it with paragliding this last vacation as well. And one, I it's something that I like dreamed of doing. I wanted to fly. I wanted to see how it was from like up there and like not having any ground behind my feet other than the ocean, and being able to see all that view and feel like I'm flying and so on, all of that. But my mom said something that made me really feel like, yeah, I'm doing it for the right reasons, because she said like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone that you can do this. Like, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. And I was like, I'm not afraid. I'm just excited because, of course, I was a little bit like, how's it going to be? And like nervous if the wind would be good at the day and so on. Because I went one day and the time wasn't right to be able to fly. There's all the weather conditions and so on. So of course, I wanted to know that today is okay, right? Um, and that little sense of control had me thinking like, yeah, I don't know how to fly. I need to trust someone that knows and that their experience is enough. And I can just enjoy this. So letting go of control was a thing in here as well. But my experience was really, once I was there, I even forgot that I wanted to record a video. And I told you that I was glad that I told the instructor before going that I wanted to sing a few songs in the air, because I completely forgot in the moment I got there. I
Yeah.
was so like mesmerized by the view, and like everything was so amazingly beautiful, and feeling like I was in a journey but being actually there,
Mm.
that I completely forgot about what I'm gonna post on social media, or the song that I wanted to sing because I thought it would be cool
Yeah.
to sing in the sky and put this on a video
Yeah.
for a
Ultimate
band.
presence.
Yeah, and that's how I felt like, oh yeah, I actually really came for the right reason. I came for the view.
Oh, wow. You were saying I came for the right reason, but you paused, and I thought you were saying I came for the ride. And I was like, "Oh, I want that on a t-shirt too."
That's even better. I came for the ride.
And and
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, oh, I'm so glad you got to do that, and I loved seeing the video you guys posted of you doing the song. And how beautiful to have that feeling of I'm really here and I'm showing up for the joy. And I think I think when we look around and we see people who are really, really happy, like Buddhist monks who just have like a smile from ear to ear and uh it's like what they're doing is being being here and being cognizant of the self they're bringing.
Mm.
um and I it our pattern, the pattern of modern life seems to just be, one, if we can build the technology, let's do it without asking what the ramifications are going to be. And two, extremes. I remember watching the movie Idiocracy years
Mm.
ago, when I don't remember when it came out, and they do, as like a hello, they're just giving each other the finger, because life has just become like so vulgar that giving somebody the finger is like the equivalent of saying hello. Well, I thought, well, that's so funny, but what an extreme and what a stretch. But not really. The way we talk to each other, like
Ye-
this one way to look at how we get increasingly more extreme, and then we get used to it, right?
that's interesting that you brought that up, because it, yeah, it feels a little bit like a stretch in the movie, but I used to have that reaction with some of the language that people use, especially when I hear people talking in English. We do have this in Portuguese as well, but when it's not your first language, you notice a little bit more.
Okay.
And I would find really interesting that people say good things like you're gonna explode your business, and I feel like, are you saying this in a good way or in a bad way? Or like, oh man, that's sick. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? There's so many words that you feel like that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. And I think language is a great way to see how we're looking for that next level, that next extreme. Barely anybody uses the word unique correctly in English. People, unique it just means one of a kind. Something is either unique or it's not. It's either one of a kind or it's not. But like, this is incredibly unique, and our language is reflecting back to us that we're looking for ways to express extremes piled on top of one another, as opposed to the calmness or the awareness that's just, oh, this really is a moment that's lighting me up. I'm standing in the sun and I'm feeling the warmth, and there's something about our
Mm,
seeking that next extreme that I think is related to this externalization. And
yeah.
maybe it's that it's not comfortable a lot of the time to really feel our bodies and to really be present,
Mm,
but we create the um, adrenalized moment to replace the inner observation and being present. Is that making sense?
yeah, situations that in theory you would be so present that you're almost out of your body.
Mm.
The opposite way. Mm, yeah.
But I feel the more I'm really soaking it up and soaking it in,
Mm,
the less I'm yelling about it
yeah.
and adding adverbs
Mm.
to it.
Tell me more about it.
Well, like you were saying, when you were finally in that moment flying, you forgot that you
Mm,
wanted to record songs. You were
yeah.
in it, doing it.
Yeah.
And we've been trained for a couple of decades now. Um, and this was happening in my childhood. Instead of being present, record it. I remember when I was like 7 or 8 years old, my dad got his first camcorder, and we have all of these family movies that are just kind of, you know, wobbly point of view of random things going on, because the excitement was, we can record this, but it's not an intentional portrait. It's not, oh, here's
Yeah.
Aunt so and so and grandma. It's just like my dad going around with the camera as part of his personality. We had a lot
Yeah.
of floors and ceilings. Um, but that impetus to capture, to talk about, to editorialize on the thing instead of really experiencing the thing. That's what I mean.
Mm, yeah.
And we do it with our cameras, but we also do it with language,
Yeah.
where we create a kind of mediation by describing it with all of this extreme language with lots of modifiers. Oh, this is incredibly, amazingly exciting. I agree. It's like this higher level. But where's the room for integrating the experience?
Yeah.
Like at the end of a yoga practice, allowing the energy that we've cultivated and stirred up to actually integrate.
Circulate.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. What are some of the other ways that we externalize self? And I think initially when we talked about this, we were, or the phrase had come up, outsourcing self.
What?
I think the phrase that came up was outsourcing self.
Outsourcing. Yes.
Uh,
We kind of mentioned in groups and so on. One thing that you actually brought up as well was about how the use of artificial intelligence is and you mentioned the fetish,
yeah, like fetishizing intelligence. Yeah.
fetishizing intelligence. Yes. Um, as if the knowledge that these tools and the capabilities, skills, and so on that these tools have would be better than humans in some way. And yeah, I wanted to hear more about what you were thinking about this as well, because I do see a lot of people feeling like they're so smart because they're using this, and I'm not completely opposed to. I just want to say this about using artificial intelligence since it's there. I do use it for some things when I uh, feel like, oh yeah, this is a waste of my time. For example, searching for hashtags. The AI can do a better job than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to
In the
hear
same way, like, why would I add up all of these numbers when I have a calculator? Like, I
exactly.
already have the skill of addition. I'm not looking to build that skill. I just want to know what's the total. Yeah.
Yeah, or if I'm creating an art, I don't really like the idea of AI doing the whole art for me. But if I'm going to search in a image bank for something that I need to use to create a um, art with other elements than that I want to incorporate, and I can just ask in my Adobe program for the AI to create this in this style, and I don't have to search. And 90% of the times, I get something close enough to fit
Yeah.
the image. Why
Yeah.
not?
I I think it's just like such a of course moment that AI is coming onto the scene right now because we're in this place as human beings asking what does it mean to be a human being, right? So of course we're creating a technology that's posing that question in a larger way. And I don't know much about it. And I was just doing a little bit of reading up on like the AI that we have right now, just basically compiling, right? And if it has memory, it is limited memory versus what people think of or what I would always think of with artificial intelligence is like it's something approaching consciousness, right? And we don't have that yet, or at least if we have it, it's under wraps. We don't know about it. But I was just really intrigued by people defining these terms. So there's AI and then there's like artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. And the way the definitions were is like AI can do things that humans can do, but like a general AI would be able to do anything a human can do better. And there's something like there are computers that can beat us at chess that they could, so they can do
Yeah.
one thing that humans can do and they can do it better, but there isn't yet a general AI that can do everything better than a human, like in a head-to-head competition. And then the super AI would be able to do things that humans can't do. And so what I said to you before we started recording was like, yeah, but they're not asking like, is this AI better at calming a baby
Mm,
or making a child feel seen? So our definition um, around intelligence is ability to work with data somehow. Like that's what the AI is doing right now is it's able to comb through and compile data and predict, which is
it's logic, knowledge, intelligence only.
yeah, but like in this space of just combing through what already exists and being able to predict pretty darn well, what could come next. And so I just find it so perfect for where we are in this moment of humanity that we've created something and we're like, oh, we've externalized our intelligence, but we only took like this one little corner of intelligence and we're putting it out there and saying these things are intelligent and now they're going to be more intelligent than a person. There was a cool example in the article I was reading where somebody had asked GPT for make a list of 10 words that have K as their third letter. And it returns a list of 10 words that all have a K in them, but some have the K as the second letter and some have it as the fourth letter. And every time they did it, it either got it wrong or maybe it would give you the right list back, but then it would apologize and say, oh, sorry, I got some wrong. Here's another list. And it couldn't tell when it had done the task right or wrong, basically. And any human, even with like not very much intelligence, could immediately look at it and go, K is the second letter, K is the fourth letter, K is the fifth letter, right? So that to me was such a brilliant example of how we don't yet have good definitions of what intelligence is, but everything that we're moving towards seems to be making intelligence just about ability to manipulate data, do research, no acknowledgement of emotional intelligence, no acknowledgement of spiritual intelligence. So I just think it's, if we're in a novel, and maybe we are, of course there would be this moment where humanity is externalizing. It's like trying to create an image of itself and going, what am I? Am I just a thinking animal? Am I just an animal with language? Okay, yeah, that's, like that's one way of seeing humanity. And at the same time, we're having all of these like interesting planetary things happening and this like huge upsurge of people who are looking around going like, oh, I'm no longer going to be afraid to say that I believe in miracles and magic.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, I think AI is helping us frame the question, what do we think it means to be human? What do we think it means to be an intelligent human? What are the kinds of intelligence?
Yeah, and if we are going to consider the externalization of the self as like, if I have access to super intelligence AI, then I'm like expanding my intelligence, or like people are going with those um, Oculus stuff and all the Neuralink stuff as well, and so on. Like, oh, you're maybe like thinking of externalizing as amplifying intelligence as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you can go to the other side of the spectrum as well. And you mentioned here believing in miracles and so on. What if, and this for me is true, what if we can externalize ourselves as we are part of spirit, we are part of something much greater, and this is the external that makes me big, even though I'm just a particle in this world.
I love it. Yeah. I see these different pathways and that one is moving us toward a more full understanding of our experience and our existence and having feedback from the body, being able to tell, like trusting, oh, I got those chills up my spine. I know this is a yes. Having like one direction we can move is toward amplification of greater awareness of the human, the whole integrated human experience. And the other direction is we're so narrowly focused on what is the thing we think is intelligence that we're divorced from our experience, like the list of words was supposed to have. Okay. I also am reading a book right now about the gut biome and gut health. And the author is very interesting. He keeps citing his own experience and then saying, but that's just anecdotal. So don't listen to that because there hasn't been a study. And I'm like, but that's your experience. You need to pay attention to that. Like the only gut that really matters is yours, dude. I mean, he wants to share knowledge, which I appreciate. And he's saying like, these are the things that have been found to be true in multiple people across different studies. But there's this bias against the personal experience and is making me laugh, frankly. Like, how's that working for you? Where he's,
Yeah.
he, and I can have a lot of empathy for that, even as I'm, laughing at him, because of course we've seen that absolute prejudice. If it can't be done in a double blind study, then it doesn't mean anything. And meanwhile, the person's like, "Oh, okay, but when I eat that food, it gives me diarrhea, and I'm going to trust that." Like, I'm not going to
I
disregard that data point, even if somebody else didn't have it.
I trust much more an author that is honest enough to say like, this is my experience, you can try for yourself, than someone who says like, all of this data proves that this is the truth.
Yeah. Well, it was super interesting. So it's about microbiomes, and he's talking about how dirt, being on the land, so good, all those microbiomes. And at the same time, he talked about exposure to antibiotics, really harmful. Makes total sense. So do you know what his advice was? Go spend time on a farm. And I was like, do you understand how modern farming works? It's all
Mm.
antibiotics all of the time. Right? So it's like,
Mm.
you have a lot of knowledge that comes from studies. Do you have any knowledge that comes from life?
Yes. And that goes circling back to the sensors that you brought here, that we have in our personal experience. We have all these sensors, all these both intuition and sensory things that gives us data as well on what works for us and what's happening in our environment and how we are experiencing life, and we are always like making meaning of all these things if we are present enough to be paying attention to all of this.
Well,
And yet most people are going to look at what their iWatch is saying about them, or what um, AI is saying, or whatever,
I
instead
I
of
have
paying attention to
I
what
am
they're feeling.
embarrassed to say I have done this many times. I have taken the wrong turn when I knew better because my GPS like was lagging and hadn't caught up or something. And so there I am with the input from my senses and going, but the machine told me to do it this way.
I had that many times during the travel now, because by the beach, at least where I go, you can never know if the weather is going to be what it says it's going to be.
Yeah.
It always says it's raining and it's not. So if you just, I imagine like, if you just look at your phone and the weather says it's raining, oh, I'm not gonna get up and I'm not gonna go to the beach. You're
Yeah.
gonna spend the whole time in bed instead of going to the beach and seeing like there's actually sun and you could be enjoying that.
Okay, you have just hit me with what I want to have as my insight project for the week, because we talked about what it is useful to have tools like having AI go search for hashtags or using a calculator, right? Like, there are so many moments where technology is supportive of us in our larger missions, and then there are the times where we've externalized ourselves
Yeah.
to the machine, to the technology, even low level technology. It doesn't have to be the latest and the greatest, where we're just like, oh, I'll just, take myself out of it completely. So I would like to just create awareness as I'm going through my life, um, like how I am using tools, and
Hmm.
like how, if they're helping self or replacing self.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
So
Mhm.
I think this is going to help me. I've been in extreme addiction mode to screens lately. I've been having a super, super bad time with it. So
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not out of it either. I admit. There are times that I am on my screen and I'm thinking like, what am I really avoiding to do right now that I'm just scrolling instead of doing something else?
All
Yeah.
right. So is this helping? Is this aiding self or replacing self?
Yeah. I'm
Nice.
joining that. Mm.
Cool. What was your big insight from our conversation?
Ooh, so many. Uh, Probably I need to integrate a little bit, but let's see. A big insight. Probably that we can trust a little bit more our experiences. Doesn't matter if it's like big facing the line, like we're talking about, or um, small things as just like, I don't know, noticing that there's sun when the weather says it's raining. Uh, as this is part of who we are as in our experience, um, whenever we are, I'm rumbling here, but basically what I'm saying, like every experience, it doesn't have to be like that huge rite of passage.
Yeah.
Can, if we are um, present with it, can serve as a point of reference for us to bring the self back into like who we are internally instead of having to externalize.
Mm. You're making me want to add on an addendum to my Insight project, which would be making a practice of asking, "How am I feeling?" And specifically, like physically, body sensation.
Yeah.
What are my body sensations, and what are they telling me?
I was actually thinking before you, I love the practice that you suggested, so I'm actually joining that. But I was actually thinking, like, I actually want to uh, just follow my own intuition without checking so much which is so similar to that, but basically, like, really, even the time, I want to see, like, can I eat in the time that I am hungry instead of checking if it's time to eat? Can I don't know, go to sleep when I'm tired instead of checking, like, oh, now it's time. Stuff like that.
That sounds like a great project. Yeah, because even though I want to do the like as this aiding self or replacing self, I'm not sure what that looks like as a practice. It's more a concept. So I think these will help us get at
Yeah.
that. My big insight for the day is uh damn, it helps to have somebody who can help curate these experiences.
Yeah.
I don't think it's realistic or really fair for us to expect ourselves that we'll have these moments of rites of passage and really kind of like pull from our deep selves without containers that do that. And so I just want to kind of have that on my radar.
Mm.
Like, no wonder it's such a challenge because we don't have mostly, mentors. It's not a normal thing to have. Maybe this is why the coaching industry has exploded so much and is so big, right? Because you do have then the person who's holding that space for you and walking you through that rite of passage.
And makes a huge difference. I feel like even talking with people who are working in the psychology and so on, and there's so much value in that. And there has been so much debate around whether coaches are interfering in in the things from psychologists and so on. And I feel like it's two different things, even though a psychologist can help someone grow as well. Psychologists usually, not always. I'm reading a book from Bill Plotkin, Wild Mind. I don't know if you
Ooh, I
heard
don't
about
know.
it, but I think you would love it. Love it. He has a book called Soul Craft as well, which is about the rites of passage in more like not in the indigenous way, but kind of similar to that. And he is a psychologist, but um his approach is more like, and he even says this about wholeness instead of pathology. But
Yeah.
most psychologists are more focused on, "Oh, let's solve the issue." And I feel like coaches, even though we work with the issue as well, we work more with growth.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do with this now? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you really want to create? Let's make things
Yeah.
happen. Let's go beyond whatever it is, the limitation,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like there's space for both things, and it is so needed.
Yeah. And you're bringing up this other key theme we talked about, which is, am I creating? Am I consuming?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So many good, so many good things. And I got some good books I need to read. Oh,
Awesome.
yay.
Mm.
Well, can't wait to hear from anybody who has thoughts on this. Are you going to join us in looking for feedback from your body and trusting intuition,
Yeah.
instead of outsourcing everything? we can outsource tasks, but we don't need to outsource self.
Yes. Mm. Love it.
Yay. Thank you.
Hope you
Thanks for
enjoyed this episode. And until the next one.